As I said, most of people, they know about THC. But THC is not the only active ingredient inside this plant. There are more than 80 terpenophenolics or cannabinoids inside these plants that they need research. And then there are more than 60 terpenes and other compounds. Some of them we know they have psychoactive effects. Some, mostly we don't know if they have any psychoactive effects. And some research, they think they don't have any psychoactive effects on humans. But there are lots of them, and most of research is concentrated on THC because it's very potent and it has a very high, basically effects, psychoactive effects on humans. Based on these three chemicals from this category, basically THC, CBD, and CBG, they categorize all the varieties in the market to 5 categories. First one is with the high THC, low CBD. Second one with the moderate THC and CBD, which is more natural to me. And the third one is with the high CBD with low THC. And then another type 4, is with the high CBG, low THC and CBD. And the last one, which they use it in the hemp industry for getting fiber, has none of these 3 cannabinoids in it. So chemotype 5, basically, they use it for hemp industry, which has no cannabinoids in it. The reason that I said the thing that is in market could be dangerous in some ways is that if we look at the precursor of both THC and CBD are the same. Cannabigerolic acid is the precursor to both of them. When we make more THC, basically we have a limited resources of that in plant. When we change the pathway in a way to make more THC, in most of the time we reduce the CBD too in plants. And recent research shows that CBD has some moderating effect on THC. So without CBD, just increasing THC is just letting one ingredient to affect on the brain without any moderation from other one. That's the thing I call it is not natural. Because in nature, when we have a ratio of 1 to 1 or 1.5 to 0.5 of these 2 compounds, then we have some moderation. Then lots of people, they express that feeling of high or joy or happiness after that. But then when just you increase THC to 28 times in one plant, then you give it to people, even more. Because the hash oil itself has 60% THC, and when you increase those plants to something, it could be very psychoactive actually, more than the natural one, and it can cause some problems. There are lots of propaganda outside about these plants. Some for, some against. We know about that, and we heard lots of things about that, but these are the adverse effects that is proven about these plants. And about the cardiovascular issues. It's just that 1 hour, some people with heart problems, they shouldn't smoke these strong ones because it can cause some problem. It increases the heartbeat. And then pregnant women and breastfeeding, because it has some similarities with endocannabinoids in the body, it can cause some problem for babies. And then for impaired driving, because it affects the higher cognitive centers. So it can cause, and short memory, it can cause problem for that. And then some people, they have some allergic reaction to that. And in general, smoking can cause some problem. People, they smoke cigarette or other things, they get some materials, some compounds that they don't want, and they can cause cancer or other stuff. These are the only ones that I could find that they are based on clinical trials is proven. But there are lots of myth and propaganda outside against these plants, like fertility, it's not proven, or brain damage, permanent brain damage. These are just myths around these subjects. Chromosome damage, or damage to immune system, it's not proven. none of them, they did the clinical trials, blinded clinical trials to prove it that is happening. It's just outside, and I was very upset to see that how much energy is spent in the market, in websites, internet, to talk about these things. Or another thing is, it's a gateway to hard drugs like heroin or morphine or other. It's not proven. Actually, a recent article I was reading, it said it reduces by 20% the amount of the use of hard drugs and violence in some states in U.S. Basically, the states that they allow the people to smoke it, it reduced the violence by 20% and use of hard drugs. So it's not proven, but it's outside, and I think easily you can check the website and see lots of material about that. And these are medicinal properties are proven. There are lots of claims outside, companies. Europe is very ahead of us in this, basically in research on cannabis. And there are lots of claims outside, but these are the proven ones, that they did clinical trials and they saw, and they have some drugs, they developed some drugs, people, they use it in Europe and other countries. And if you look at the number of claims outside, it's mind-blowing. You see that so many things they claim that against cancer, and all of these things, they need research. Like there are three, four claims that I can say with clinical trials are proven, like anti-epileptic. It's just recently, they published a paper in US, and it's proven that CBD has that effect and some type of THC. And then there are lots of other ones, and I think it's a big area of research. We need researchers to do research on this subject and the other components. But the genomic research, as I said, is a recent thing. They started in the 90s, and then in 2011, I think University of Toronto is the first one, published some sequences and a pathway for, basically a pathway for cannabinoids in plants, in cannabis, species of cannabis. And then after that, I couldn't find really many papers on this subject. So I think, and this is not really scientific, basically research, but if you check the gene bank, you see something interesting. If you look at the number of books published about these plants, it shows 578 books. And the number of papers, 13,000 books, papers. And then when you compare it to Papaver somniferum, or poppy, or opium plant, you see how many more books and papers are written about that. And then you compare it to CB1 receptor, which is the receptor for cannabinoid. Again, you see it's way more than that. But when you come and compare the number of genomic research done on biosystems, you see just 3, and in fact, I say it's just 1. Because the other one, 2 other ones, is the mix of rosemary and other plants and cannabis. There is just 1 really genomic research is done on these biosystems inside cannabis sativa. And then you compare to other ones like the CB1 and others. See, there are lots of areas, I think, that scientists, they can do genomic research on this. I feel there is a big gap between cannabis research and market. Market is going in their way, and researchers are doing something different on this. And we need a bridge to connect these two. That's something that I was thinking, that if we can look at the needs in the market, what they really need for, medicinal properties of these plants. I'm not talking about recreational use of this plant. What market needs, and what to direct researchers to go that way, to help them to investigate more about those subjects. I think it can be very helpful for both communities, for business community and for academic community, to get together and do some research on that. I proposed this research to the dean, and thanks to Michael, he invited me to talk here, and I really appreciate it. A research project that has 4 components, basically. First component is more breeding and selection of these plants, which I think is better to be done in Europe because of the legal things. Because here, getting licensed, I have friends that tried for a long time and they couldn't get the license to do production and research on these plants. And then the second stage to select, basically to set objectives and select things, active ingredients that they want us to work on. And then to do the genomic work on this, chemotyping, and basically finding genetic markers for those plants. And another major component is the pharmaceutical, and basically pharmacology and clinical trials on these plants. We can, and I was thinking, at the end of session, I'd like to hear from you guys, because I was thinking we can do in vivo and in vitro trials based on what is our priority, to work on these different active ingredients and to use them for clinical trials and other tests. And basically, this is a multidisciplinary project. It's not just one person's work or few people's work to do this. I'm hoping that if we can have a team from different sciences, from applied biology, agriculture, food sciences, pharmaceutical sciences, and medical sciences, then we can have a good project and they can produce something good. It's good for the market, it's good for the academic community. We can publish papers related to that, we can have patents, and we can have commercial products to produce in the market, in North American market. But this is basically just an idea, and I wanted to share it with you guys and to see what you think about basically the academic work and the research work on this. I feel there are 4 major directions for this project, and one is the genomic research, gene-based markers with these plants, then clinical trials and characterization of active ingredients, and then in the next step, drug development. The CDRD can be very helpful in that. And then mixing it with other natural products with some other properties, and producing some new products in the market. I selected some references. There are tons of references outside. And if someone wants to learn about that, there are lots of materials and research about this subject. And these are my favorite ones I chose here. I wanted to thank some friends in the Netherlands for letting me work with them. And then some friends in US and UK, and Department of Biochemistry at UVic, because we are in biology, but they are in biochemistry. They let us to use their equipment, everything. So, and pharmaceutical sciences here for inviting me and letting me to share my ideas with you. Thank you.